Welcome back to our series on getting to know ProSelect. In this series, we're trying to show you ways to be able to work with ProSelect faster, be more efficient, and ultimately make more money. Well, now that we have our ProSelect album created, we're actually ready to start on our first client presentation. Now, what we need to do first is go to our room view. So we're going to go up here and click on Working with Rooms. And what we want to do is we want to check to see if any rooms are already loaded in your ProSelect. Well, likely you're either going to have no rooms or you're going to have 3 rooms. The rooms that you'll have loaded would be the dining room C23, lounge C23, and office C23. It'll be those right there. Now, if they're not loaded, we're going to go through and I'm going to show you exactly where to get those images. And actually, if you're interested in adding more images like I've got in mind, where you can actually purchase some of the other room view collections right from Time Exposure. First, let's open our web browser and we're going to go out to the Time Exposure website. Across the top, we'll see a series of our navigation tabs. We're going to go ahead and click on the Download tabs, mouse over it, and then we're going to go to ProSelect Resources. This area you can see lots of different options available for room views, templates, frames, background images, different things like that are available. Right now all I'm concerned about is room view images. If we look under our room view images, we've actually got 3 different selections out here. We've got our room view sample collection, our room view collection 1, and our room view collection 2. Well, the room view sample collection is actually a free collection. That's what I want to download today. If you wanted to have more rooms to be able to work with, you can actually download and purchase right through the site your collections 1 and 2. Well, to download it, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to click on my DMG file. I'm on a Mac. If you're on a PC, you're going to want to use the zip file. So I'm simply just going to click the DMG file. It's going to ask me to log into my Time Exposure account. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to log into my Time Exposure account. Just click Login and then click here to start the download. So I'm going to go ahead and start the download and we're ready to download the file. Once the download is completed, I'm going to go to my downloads location. In this case is my Mac Downloads folder, and I'm going to simply double click on the sample collection. What it's going to do is going to open up a room view samples.tpk file. This is a ProSelect template pack file, and we want to load that room collection into ProSelect. To load the file, we're going to double click on the template package. It's going to open our import collection dialog. All we have to do is simply click import, and it's adding those room images right into our ProSelect. All I've got to do is click OK. When you go through your presentation with your client, there's 6 basic steps that I want to have you go through, and we're going to talk about each one of these steps. And I think if you follow this simple process, that will make it very, very easy, and you'll have your sale will be very, very successful. Well, later on we'll actually be able to go into some more elaborate sales techniques in future videos, but for right now, if you follow this process, I think you'll be really happy with the results. The first thing that we want to do is to show the client a slideshow. We want to show them the slideshow with music and make sure that's the first way that they're actually going to see the images. It really sets a nice emotional tone for the whole presentation and the ultimate sale. Then from there, what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to edit down the images. We're going to use yes, no, and maybe to be able to sort the images down into manageable groups. We need to be able to guide that client through the process so they can actually make a decision. It's very, very easy to get clients overwhelmed with having too many images left, so we need to get it down to a manageable group. Once we've got the images narrowed down, we're actually going to go through and we're going to start comparing duplicate images. And this is the process how we can do our finite editing. Once we've done that, we've got a final selection of images. The first one we're going to do is determine our wall portrait or our wall grouping. We're always going to work on selling that wall portrait and that wall grouping first before we go on to anything else. If we don't sell it first, it greatly diminishes our ability to be able to sell it later. So it's very important to sell the wall portrait first. Once we were finished with our wall portrait or wall portraits, we're going to work on ordering gift images, and the last thing we want to do is actually go ahead and get the order deposit from the client and confirm the sale, get a signed order receipt. That's the process. Let's take a look and see exactly how we do that. The first step in our sales process is the slideshow. Well, if you remember in our last video, we actually went in and I showed you how to be able to take and assign the music. Again, that was album, slideshow music, and we selected a music file. So our music's all set to play. The slideshow is going to start from wherever you actually have selected. That's where the slideshow will begin. So we want to be sure that we're on the first image. But we can also go through and we can take and we can rearrange the images if we want to. The slideshow is going to play in whatever order we've got on these particular images here. We can move images around. If I want to take and change the position of an image, I can select an image and I can drop and drag it to a new location. That just moved that image up into that slot, moved everything forward. We can also move a whole group of images. Let's take, for example, I wanted to move the whole series of the children to the beginning of the slide presentation. What I can do is click on the first one, and then I'm going to get onto the last one of the child there. I'm going to hold my Shift key, and that selects everything between those two particular points. So I could now take and I could move that whole section at one time up to the front of the grouping. If I do a Control or Command D, that will deselect that image, or that series of images, or I can just click on any image and it would also deselect them that same way. Now, I don't really want to start out with the kids first, so I'm just going to go ahead and move those back here. So again, I'm going to select that whole group of images, and then we're going to pull them and I'm going to drop them right back down into position. But we can really adjust the images however you want them to be able to make the strongest presentation. Oh, there's an image that I missed up there at the top. So again, all I have to do is simply take and drag that image and I can pull it right back down to the grouping to get exactly where I want it. Well, to do my slide presentation, first thing I'm going to do here is we're going to go in and I'm going to click on my first image here. Then what we want to do here is I'm going to go over to my slideshow icon. Now what I want to do is I want to have this all set and ready to go for my client when they walk in the door. If we look at these icons, you can see there's a tiny little tick mark just to the right of the slideshow icon. That means that there's a contextual menu there, or something that I can access with a right click. Everybody on a PC is pretty used to right-clicking. On a Mac, maybe not so. Most of the Mac mouses can be enabled for right-clicking, or if you don't have it enabled for right-clicking, you can actually hold your Control key on your Mac and then click, and that will bring up that contextual menu. Well, what I want to do is I'm going to go in here, I'm going to click on Start Paused. And when I click Start Pause, what that does, that simply brings up a blank screen for me. If we look down here in the lower right hand corner, you'll notice that there is a little pause button there. So when the client comes in, the screen can be up there just like this, and we're ready to go for our slideshow. I'm going to have the client come in, talk to him, get him any refreshments or anything like that, have them sit them down, and tell them first of all when they're going to see the slideshow, you want them to just sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Don't worry about picking out any images at this point, comparing anything. We're going to take them right through the whole process. To start the slideshow, all we have to do is tap the space bar and the slideshow begins. It makes a nice, simple, dissolve slideshow. Now, the amount of time that it spends on each image is actually set in your preferences. You can adjust that under your slideshow preferences. I run them through fairly quickly. We don't need to spend a lot of time with this. At the end, the music will actually fade out as the slideshow ends and bring us back to our basic ProSelect screen. The slideshow is a very, very important part of this whole sales process. Once we've completed the slideshow, we want to explain to the client that we need to start editing down the images. We want them to pick out their favorites. Now I want to tell them that this is a real easy process, and what we want them to do is judge each image on its own merit. What that means is you're going to be looking at each image individually and deciding whether it's either a yes, a no, or a maybe. Real simple. We're not worried about anything down the road, but this is the quickest way to work through the images, is to do the simple yes, no's, and maybes. When we edit these images, we're going to put our fingers on the keys 1, 2, and 3. 1 is a yes, 2 is a maybe, 3 is a no. Well, sometimes it's a little difficult to see the faces, so what we can actually do is we can zoom in. Now what happens when we zoom in, we can zoom in by simply right-clicking, and it's going to zoom up to wherever I click the mouse. Okay, that became the center of the image because I clicked on his nose, that became the center. So we can zoom up the image just merely so they can see the expressions. So I'm going to ask the client, is this a yes, no, or a maybe? Client thinks this is a maybe, I tap the 2 key. We go on to the next key. If I want to zoom in the next image, again, I can right click on it. Yes, no, or maybe. Oh, this one's a no. We'll hit the 3 key. Go to the next one. Oh, this one's a maybe image. So we tap the 2. We go through the next one. This one, oh, everybody looks good there, so we're going to tap a 1. We're going to add that into the yes group. Again, I'm right-clicking to zoom up the image. Yes, no, or maybe. Okay, this one is a yes. And so that's the process that we're going to go through. We're going to go through that with all of the images. The goal here is to create 2 pools of images. I want to have my yes images and I want to have my maybe images. Let's go through and we're going to add another one here to our yes group. This one looks good. I'm going to hit it to my number 1, and that's sent into my yes group. Well, if I come up here to the upper left-hand corner and click on my smiley faces, when I click on there, that shows me my images that are in my yes group. I have 3 images of this particular grouping. So what we want to do is I want to take, and once I've got all of my yes images, then I'm going to worry about comparing those images at that point. And this is where I can actually bring up multiple images at a time. Now, comparing is really important. That the only thing that we ever want to compare is images when we want them to eliminate one of them. I want to get it down to one finished group of all of them. I don't want to have multiple images of the same one, because that's more work. It's more retouching, more effort. There's no reason they have to have different poses as ones that are very similar. Well, I'm going to click on my first image. I'll hold my shift key and then I can click on the next image. That brings up both images, so we can now take and compare those images. If I want to zoom in, this time what I can do is when I'm going to zoom in, I'm going to hold my shift key, and again I'm going to click my mouse right about here, because that will bring up both images to the center. Holding that shift key means that it will bring both images up. So now the client can look closely at these images. If I want to look even closer, I can hold the shift key. I'm going to click right between the 2 kids, and you can see there I can now take, and we zoomed up closer so we can look at mom and just the kids, so we can compare these 2 images. If I hold my shift key and my space bar, I can move around the image. Again, that shift key means it's going to move both images. If I don't hold the shift key, it'll just move the one that I'm on. So we can look here. Everybody looks good. I'm actually liking the one on the right better. Yep, I like the one on the right better. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the one on the left, and I'm going to hit the 3 key, and that will send that other one to that no group. If I want my image to zoom back, I can go down in the bottom right-hand corner. It shows a little magnifying glass with a minus sign there. I click that, and that shows my full image. That's the process we're going to go through first to be able to edit down the images and get a final set of images. Once we have all of our images edited down, you're probably going to have a selection that looks like this. If you notice, I have 2 different family groupings here. What we did is we edited down to the best one of each grouping. Now it's time for the client to decide which of these images they're ultimately going to use. In this case, they may use both because they are both different. We can also go through and we have ones of the kids. You can see we have 2 different ones of the kids. And then we also have 2 of the parents. Well, at this point in the game, we're going to work on selling the wall portrait, and that's really the most important thing. The image that I would really like to see on their wall is this one, because I think it's an absolutely beautiful image. So what I want to do first, and quite often what I'll do is I'll show a very, very brief slideshow of these images. So I can select my first image, just simply click my slideshow icon, and I'm going to ask the client which of these images they can envision being displayed on their wall at home. You can see it's going through the images. They're just going through real quick. I want a little bit of the music, a little bit of the emotional flair, and as soon as it's through all the images, you can see our music is just simply just going to fade out again. I'm going to tap that escape key, and that brings me right back into my thumbnail view right where we left off. Well, at this point, the client's going to probably say that they're going to like this particular image. Well, in most cases, the clients are looking for images. They're always thinking big, and of course they're thinking the big 8x10, and this is where we can come in using the room view in ProSelect, and it's a great way to be able to take and show the different images. So to get to our room view, we're going to go up here in our upper right hand corner, and we're going to click on our working with rooms. That's the sofa icon, so we're going to click that. If you remember a little bit earlier, we actually imported in some rooms. Now you'll see a whole lot more rooms in my set here, because I actually have all the room collections in here, and you're just going to have 3 initially starting out unless you've purchased those additional collections. What we can do is we can take, and I can double click on a room, and I can bring this room up. And these rooms from time exposure are automatically scaled, so you don't have to worry about anything, but this at least gives you an idea to be able to take and show the images on a wall. Well, all we have to do to show the images on the wall is simply drag the image out to the wall. If we look down at the bottom of the screen here, it'll actually show the size, and it'll depend on the paper sizes that are set up in your ProSelect what size that it's actually viewing. But we can use the up and down arrow keys to be able to take and show different sizes of these images. We want to go through and be able to talk about where that image is going to go into at home. Here is the 8 by 10. That's what an 8 by 10 looks like when it would get at home and be up on the wall displayed above the sofa. So we can take and go through and we can take and show the client the different sizes to be able to get an idea of what the image is going to look like when it would get into a room situation. When we're looking here, you can see I've got a 36 by 50. That does not look extraordinarily large. It actually fits very well there above the room. Well, if we wanted to do a room grouping, we could actually drag additional images back into the room. So let's come over here and say maybe we want to put this one of the kids over here. We're going to drag that image in there, and let's pull the ones of mom and dad here. And all I have to do is click on an image, and again, use my up and down arrow keys to be able to take and show the different sizes on the image. Notice as I pull it around how I've got different alignments that are showing up there. As it's dragging on, it's actually centering up there. Let's go over this other image. I clicked on the one of the kids, and now I'm going to take and use the down arrow keys to be able to size a grouping to be able to get something that looks nice. Well, you can see here what I've got is I actually have in the center, we've got our we actually have a 30 by 40 here in the center, and now we've got two 16 by 24s on each side. It makes a beautiful looking wall grouping. There's the client can see exactly what it's going to look like and pre-visualize the whole thing. Now, we can also go through and we can change rooms. We can actually have a client that you can import in a photograph of their room if you wanted to do that. And that's really the way that I would ultimately suggest that you do that. But in your first sale or two, you're probably not going to have that flexibility. So that's why we wanted to provide you with these rooms here. If we want to change the room, we can go to our select room background here, and we can actually go through and you can pick a different room. So if we go down here and that was the a living room type setup. Here's one where the whole grouping would actually work, what it would show on a kitchen wall or in a smaller type area. And again, you can go through and you can change these different rooms. You could bring in different rooms, different situations to be able to see exactly what it's going to look like in different situations depending on the room. So we want to be able to take and make our suggestions. We want to be able to show the client. We want to make sure that they have the prices in front of them when they're when you're showing this, so they know exactly what they're looking at in terms of prices and size. So at this point, what I'm really suggesting is that you're just going to take and you're actually going to write down the order as opposed to ordering it in ProSelect. We can order in ProSelect is fairly easy, but maybe for the first time, it's easy to kind of just continue with the process that you've actually been going through. Once you've determined your image for your wall portraits, your wall grouping, from that point we're going to go on and we're going to start looking at the other images. I'm going to go back to my work with images view, and we're going to look and decide. Maybe the parents are going to want a picture of the couple. Of course, we want to have gift portraits, 5 by 7s, 8 by 10s. We can always use what's called the select size view. The select size view is this ruler here, and that shows the actual size images. And so if we've calibrated our screen as we showed you in the first video, you can actually go through and you can see them in different sizes to be able to take and see exactly what it looks like. If you want to show an actual size 8 by 10, actual size 24/30. Again, this will vary on your monitor. It's actually the monitor that the client's viewing on where it's showing the actual size based on the scaling that we set. Well, once we've finalized everything for the order, we want to write it down. Then it's real important to be able to get a deposit, get that deposit down, and you can get the order going. But this is the basic process to really get you through your first sale in ProSelect, and I hope you make lots of money.